Alright, how y'all doing? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to start video number 10 in our truck setup building series, where we go through and we test our final setup that we completed in the last video. We're going to do a 25 lap, which is going to be halfway point in the race test run, just to check what our tire wear is and get an idea overall of how the truck is going to perform. And then after we get that part done, we'll go through and start to convert the setup over into a qualifying setup, so we got something to qualify with. I'm currently waiting for iRacing to load up. I'm going to go out there as soon as it loads up and run a 25 lap run, and then I'll share the numbers and stuff with you when we get to that point. See you in about 25 laps. Alright, we just got done running a 25 lap run where I just beat the ever-loving hell out of this thing. I drove it as hard as I could. I drove it like I was qualifying for the entire 25 laps of this, what would have been the first half of the race. So then lap one, or run one rather. Fastest lap time was a 55.461. Final lap of the run was a 57.803. Let's see what our tire wear looks like here. I know we're down below 50% because right before I was coming out of turn 3 back there and on my way to the start finish line to complete the final lap, the spotter come on and said, basically gave me my warning about tires, meaning I had hit 50%. So let's take a look at our tire wear. So basically our right front tire after 25 laps, hard 25 laps, was at 49%. Our right rear is at 64%. That's actually a pretty damn good run, actually, to still have about half of the right front tire left. Basically a 14% difference between the right front and the left front for the most part. 13% difference. And we were running this thing freaking hard. I was pushing it basically like I was qualifying every lap for that 25 lap run. We were beating the ever-loving hell out of it. Let's take a look at the telemetry and see what that looks like here. Moves running, and it is. So let's go into telemetry. We want to look at our tires, and that's under driver tab, to see how badly I was abusing the damn things. So this is our 25 lap run. So on the final lap of the run, basically we were getting them hot through the corners anyway. That was not unexpected. We finally start to get the tires hot about the 5th lap in. I think that's an out lap or in lap or something like that. Yep, this is our final lap of the run. And we were basically had it pegged, other than just a lift as we entered the corner and a trail brake just to get the thing to rotate. And as soon as we realized it was rotating enough to make the corner without hitting the wall on exit, we were right back on the throttle, full bore again. We did not lift at all, hardly. We ran this thing right to the ragged edge. Our aero, our rear skirts look good. Left side looks good, right side looks good. Our splitter, We're just a tick below, but not bad. The left front ain't too bad either. We can live with that. The right front's a little low, but not bad. We can live with that. Roll center looks good. Our rake looks really good. What's our speeds through the around the track? At the end of the front straightaway, we're getting 182.7. At the end of the long straightaway coming off of turn 1, we're getting 176.4. As we get ready to come into the tunnel turn, coming out of the tunnel turn at 136. And at the end of the one right before we come into turn 3, we're hitting 162.6. And as we come out of turn 3 onto the back straight, we're at 144 miles an hour. So this thing has got really good speed. We're at 73.30 at the end of the long straight, or the front straight. As we come out of turn 1, the engine RPMs drop down to 57.25, so we lose a little bit of RPM through that corner, but not bad, not real bad. Through the tunnel turn, we lose about 2,000, or about 1,600 RPM or so, maybe, coming through the tunnel turn. And then coming through turn number 3, we're losing about 1,500 RPM or so coming through turn 3. So this thing is actually running really good. It's fast and it stays fast, and it's, for as hard as I was pushing, I wasn't even trying to save tires. I was just on basically a bonsai qualifying type run. And we turned 49 right front, right rear 64. So our tire wear was really good for as hard as we were pushing that thing. Our fastest lap was a 55.461. Our last lap was a 57.803. So over the course of 25 laps, let's see how much fall off we had. So 57. 0.803 minus 55.461. Our fall off was, for that whole run, for the first half of what would have been the race, our fall off for that whole run was 2.3 seconds for the entire run. That's actually not too bad. That's a pretty decent run. And our tire wear reflected that. We had really decent tire wear for as hard as we were pushing that thing. So we're going to go ahead and close that out. We'll save that setup sheet. And we're going to go ahead and save the setup as the race final. So that is ready to go for the race on whatever day it comes. I think the switchover happens this Monday. Now let's see what we do with this thing with a qualifying setup on it. So we're going to go ahead and pull up our checklist again, because we're going to use that same sheet we have been working on, which would have been the final testing sheet, so that we can work through our setup to get our qualifying setup created. And we'll use this first run as our baseline for qualifying. So we're going to go to the chassis and just throw it right to qualifying. No other changes other than that. And we'll take it out and we're going to drive like we're qualifying and see just how well this thing does. See if we get loose, see if we can make the corners, see just how well this thing will do in what would be a qualifying run. Hopefully it don't overheat and blow up. Yeah, got her to the wood right now. Gonna do a slight lift into the tunnel turn just to make sure it turns. And then right back, as soon as we get about middle of the corner, we're right back on the throttle, wide open. Kind of keep it toward the outside so we can keep the speed up coming on down the straightaway. This would be the green flag lap. And we're already getting hot. Into the corner. Back off of this a little bit there to hopefully cool it down some so we make the full 2 laps. Try to stay a little bit on the higher side of the turn when we come off the corner so that we can just rocket this thing and carry that speed all the way down the front straight to this would be the white flag lap.
55.098, good lap.
Oil temperature is getting up there, the water temperature is screaming at me saying, I'm hot, you fucker, that back off me. Come through the turn 3 here, onto the front straight, and just full bore all the way down the straightaway, through the
55.201.
55.2 for qualifying. So for qualifying, our fastest lap was a 55.2. That's actually kind of surprising. I figured we'd be a little quicker than that. Just as quick as this thing was basically for the whole in race trim. Because in race trim we're only about 0.2 of a second slower. We'll have to go out and see what this thing does when the week switches over to totally find out exactly where this thing sits as far as getting everything ready to go. Jump out of the truck, we'll say this is our qualifying run. Garage save as qualifying. Our tire wear was only 3% on the right front and the right rear during qualifying. That's almost no tire wear. I'd like to have seen that qualifying time a little better than it was, but this is a Jai-Hugic track, so it takes a while to get up to speed, and I'm not quite sure how well our aero is as far as all-out full bore speed goes. I want to say our aero is pretty decent, but I don't think we can probably get it any better than it is as far as our aero. So this thing is going to go through the air as best as it's going to go through the air, I think. Our rake is at 1.27 inches, which means our front end is 1.27 inches lower than our rear end. So this thing is about as aerodynamic as we're going to probably get it. Make sure our side skirts look good. I think we already checked those, and they are. We really can't bring that rear end down any lower than that because we're just right above where it would bottom out. I think once you get her down to the negative, she's actually hurting the. Once you get her down to where it's where that number there that my mouse is on right now, this 0.013. Once that goes negative, you're damaging the side skirts. So I think this is probably as good as this thing's going to get. So we should be ready to go come Monday or whenever we're actually not planning to run the truck race until next Friday night. So that gives us the whole week to practice with this setup. Now we've got a lot of laps on this setup, just putting it together and testing everything, but even though I've got a bajillion laps on this setup already, it never hurts to do as much practice as you can just to make sure everything's going to be okay. Shake the stuff out that might not have stood out to me at this point, and just make sure everything is good to go, including the driver. Because these guys are in these open class races now. Everybody's buying setups. So if you don't have your setup on the game, you're going to get smoked. So that's one of the reasons I went to this setup method I went to, is so I can make sure this setup is dialed in exactly around how I drive, to make sure I can get the most out of the truck. And hopefully we can go out and kick those Ryco boys and the Marconi boys and the Premier boys and whoever else has setup shops. Pay to win and everybody else. Or pay to wreck, as I like to call it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close out of iRacing here, because we're done with the setup building. Both the qualifying and the race setup are done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably upload later today or tomorrow. I'll be uploading the updated version of this setup sheet onto my Google Drive so that you guys can download it. I'll also put a copy of my latest Motec workbook on there, so that can also be downloaded. And I'll leave links to both of those in the description as soon as I get those uploaded here, and that'll take probably a little bit later this evening or possibly tomorrow. But anyway, I appreciate you guys watching and following this series all the way through to the end. I'm going to be working on doing one for the Xfinity car. I don't know if I'll actually make a video on that setup process, because it's for the most part going to be identical to the truck setup process. However, I might make a few supplemental videos or additional videos to go over the major differences between the truck and the Xfinity car when I go to build that setup. And the biggest thing is going to be the front end, with the way it handles its ride heights and how you set the aero on the Xfinity car versus the truck, because they do operate a little bit differently and they adjust differently. So I'll probably go ahead and do supplementals on those for videos. And as soon as I get the Xfinity setup sheet made, I'll also make that available to you guys to download off the web or off of my disk or off of my Google Drive, so that you guys got that available. And in the meantime, thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys all in the next one. Remember to like and subscribe, and take her easy.